Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to finalize the installation of the Shiftx3. All we have to do is wire it up to the data logger. So there is kind of an Ethernet connection on the back of the Shiftx, and I'm going to use this flat cable, run it into the hood vent or the hood of the dash, down the side, into I don't know what you call this, the lower dash. Going to tuck it into the door sill, and here you can see some wires down here that runs into the data logger. So I think there's 4 wires that we need to connect: ground, power, CAN high, CAN low. Unfortunately, I suck at wiring, and everything's always a mess. So I'm going to take the seat out and try to figure out which wire is which. Then we can finally wire everything up. So I'll take the seat out right now. Alright guys, so the seat is out. Excuse the dog. She normally doesn't get to hang out here while I work on the car because I'm underneath it, and she gets anxious when she can't see me. But since we're in the car today, she's out hanging out with us. Okay, so the seat's gone, and now we are looking at my wiring nightmare. Get out of there. This is the data logger. This is a GPS antenna, and this is the output to the data logger to the car. It has a splitter because one set of information is going to the car. That's one of these cables. I don't remember which one. And the second one is going to what they call the analog X, which is velcroed to the top here. This allows me to turn an analog signal into a CAN bus signal and feed it directly into the data logger. So this is it right here, analog X going to the data logger. These loose wires here, these are for future analog signals, and this purple and gray, that's for the pressure sender and differential temperature sender, and then it's the ground wire. This one goes to the car. That's CAN high, CAN low, I think power and ground. So what are we tapping? God, this is a wiring mess. I suck at this stuff, and I don't solder any of this. I just use Posi Taps because they're easy and they've worked for me thus far. But I mean, for you guys out there that actually good at wiring, this is probably driving you nuts. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to tap ground, power, and then the CAN high and CAN low for the analog X. So the Shiftx3 is going to be reading information on CAN channel 2, and that channel is being used by the analog X. So with CAN, I can daisy chain multiple devices to the network, and I will daisy chain it to the analog X. And then I think this black is ground and power. Oh man, which one's power? Power is one of these. I don't know which one power is. We'll have to figure it out. I think power is green. It should be red, but CAN high and CAN low is blue and red, so I think power is green. But before we get into that, I'm going to run the wire for the Shiftx here, and I'll show you how I plan on doing that. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and remove the Shiftx and the dash hood, or yeah, dash hood. So go ahead and do that now. Alright, so it's removed. So this will go to the back of the Shiftx. And I've got this long 25-foot and flat Ethernet cable, and probably only need 6 feet of it, right? So it's going to connect in, come around, slide up into this dash section where the hood is covering it, wrap its way around like this, and then drop down here. So there's a hole here that goes down into the footwell, and then I can kind of tuck it and run it along. So roughly guesstimating distance here, and this is why I suck at wiring, because I overestimate distance all the time, because it's better to have more than less, and then I never go back and trim. So under here is like a rat nest of wires. Right, so probably need about, you're inspecting my cable, girl? I'm gonna go with yay much, right? So I'm gonna cut it here. If you don't have a good pair of wire cutters, get a set. They're so handy. All right, that's cut. Ooh. This cable might not work. We'll see here. So usually on an Ethernet cable, they're kind of braided, or like braided together, and you can unbraid them and then you expose all the wire. But because I went for this flat one, it looks like they just molded the cable around it. And so to get to that, I got to peel away at all this molding. And they're not braided, so I've got to peel around every single wire, which could be a total pain in the ass. So let me figure out what I'm going to do with this here real quick. Okay, so that took a few minutes, but managed to take the sheathing off the cables inside, or I'm sorry, the sheathing of the cable to reveal the cables that are inside. Now I've got, and hopefully I didn't damage them too bad, because I was kind of finagling with them kind of roughly, but they look okay. They're so thin to begin with. So now I got to figure out which of these cables are the right ones to use, and we're going to dive into the Wikipedia for the Auto Sports Lab Shiftx3 here real quick. Okay, you probably can't see this due to the glare off the screen, but there's a wiring diagram for this RJ45 connector, and it is telling me if my connector is down, so the tab is down, numbers 1 through 8. 1 is ground. Let me think here. 1 is ground, so that's going to be the white one near the orange. 8 is my 12 volts, which I think is this weird brown one. And then can high channel 2 is number 4, and can low channel for can 2 is 5, which is going to be 8, 7, 6, blue, and white, but that white one is going to be wrapped with green. It's probably this one. So we're going to go ahead and strip these. I'll post a picture of this and a link to that so you guys can kind of follow along. But I'm going to strip these. We're going to connect them into the Posi Taps and then plug it into the Shiftx, and fingers crossed it turns on. So let's go try that out right now. Okay, so sorry about the vacuum cleaner. That's my neighbor working on his car or cleaning his car. Okay, so I only stripped the power and ground wires just to make it easy on myself, to make sure I'm not getting things all mixed up. And it's really easy to strip because they're tiny, so you can just use your fingernails and pull on the sheathing. So it's tapped into the Posi Taps, and this should power up. We'll see. Nice. So this obviously has power and ground. What about our data logger here? Perfect. So it's blinking. So this is all good. So at least we got power. Now the next thing to do is to tap the can high, can low, going to the analog X. And then once we get that going, then I can preload the Lewis script onto the data logger, and I think there's one to do all sorts of funky flashing and whatnot. So we'll do that and make sure can high, can low are working. And then once we confirm that, then we can finalize running the wire up into the dash. So let me connect can high and can low really quick. Okay, so I was having a tough time with can high, can low, and I have a sneaking suspicion I may have nicked one of the wires with the razor blade when I was trying to take the sheathing off. So I cut it, just cut the entire thing off. I started over, cut the entire thing off, unsheathed about 3 inches of this Ethernet cable, and then wired everything back in. So I've programmed the Racecapture with the script, kind of the test script, and we'll go ahead and turn it on and see if it works here. Perfect. So this disco light here is just to make sure that everything works, and it is. So it's got power, is grounded, and it's connected to the Racecapture, which is sending the commands to randomly generate these colors and numbers. So what I'll do here is I'll disconnect this, tuck all the wiring, mount everything back up, put the seat back on, test it again to make sure I haven't knocked anything loose, and then we can finally begin programming the Shiftx3 for alerts and tacks and all that jazz. Okay, so everything's back in, wiring's tucked away all messily, or in a very messy way. Shiftx is still running, so it's getting data from the data logger, still has power, which is great. Now all I have to do is program the alerts, the tack, and the gear position. Instead of kind of having you guys watch me fumble through that, because I'm a terrible programmer and make tons of mistakes, it takes me a long time to debug everything, I'm just going to go ahead and do it and then show you guys the results here. So that'll be probably the next cut or the next scene. In regards to the programming, Autosport Labs has a bunch of presets that you can drop in for like the tack and the gear position. Alerts you have to program yourself. So I think I'm going to work on the tack first and then the gear position, and I'll save alerts for a later date. But they do have like a generic script that you can start off with. Guys, that is the install for the Shiftx3. Everything is up and running. We've got gear position as well as tack. Shout out to Nathan and Scott. I had an issue with the display blinking at me, and they quickly provided a solution to that, so that's awesome. The Autosports Lab community is great. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to ask in the comments section below. We'll answer to the best of my ability. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you at the next video. Take care, guys.